ways to understand how to understand desire. I was waiting at the bus stop today and thinking that I've been talking a lot about delayed gratification and um, why it's important to kind of put things off if we're not really sure how to maneuver around them. Um, and some people argue that the biggest sin or the biggest pitfall of life is desire. Some argue that it's pride. It's difficult to know, so I'm going to try to explain both, and maybe from there we can try to understand a meaning that can evolve. So, if we go with pride, pride is almost a way of assuming that something that you desire is legitimate, and then in the face of something almost not aligning with that, you kind of build kind of denial around it. So, let's, for example, say that um, I like to purchase condos or like apartment buildings and then sell them so that I can make money. And I want to have them next to a lake so that people who live there have a really nice view. So because those two things are very important for people to live in a place that they like and to also have like a nice view when they look outside, they might think, oh yeah, yeah, like it doesn't matter who we end up dealing with really. Maybe it's just a place because the location's even close to maybe where we want to live and send our kids to school. So let's pretend I'm the superintendent or I'm the person that owns this building. And a lot of people are coming and they're trying to buy these condos or these apartment buildings. And in my mind, I feel like, oh, I'm doing a really good job at life and people really, really like me. But when they call me to tell me that something needs fixing, I'm really lazy. I don't really want to right now. Maybe, okay, I'll call somebody. And then if they are busy, I don't try to call somebody else to come and help. So I'm not really doing my job very well. So at the beginning, some people might be patient and think, well, I mean, I wonder why this is happening. And then with time, I won't know yet that these people are going to start thinking, we're going to have to kind of, if we can't resolve this, we're going to maybe have to go on the internet and search about what we're supposed to do. Because sometimes you sign to live in these places for a long time and there's no way to come out of it, basically. Like you have to get a lawyer and it becomes a long process. So what they do is they start to write reviews and say, this person is, if people want to buy a place, and this is the person that you're going to be interacting with, maybe be careful because we're having some trouble communicating or feeling like we're living in a safe place, for example. So think about that for a minute. You are trying to be somebody who's living ethically, like you're trying to live a good life, but you're coming up against somebody who's not trying to do that in a way that's going to help you or himself, really. Because to live in a place that has water running, for example, that's not going to flood. One of the pipes are going to flood, and then you're going to have a leak everywhere, and then who knows what damage that could cause or create. So you're going to try to kind of create awareness for other people so that they don't have to fall into that trap, right? So we said that part of the reason we want to have this ethic in the world is so that we can create a way that's going to be living, that's going to be a way we want um, to live. So people won't have to think about, I wish I didn't have to live. Like my life is so difficult. We want to live a life that we like. So if, for example, this person now was thinking about all these reviews, like he's reading it and he's like, oh, I don't think it's true. I think, I think maybe these are just false reviews. So if I was this person and I don't know why I would want to not believe these reviews. Like I can think back and say, well, it's true. Like I'm not really helping these people live like a helpful or healthy life in the apartment that they live in. But part of me might say, but why are they complaining? Why don't they just fix it themselves? Why? I mean, isn't it good enough that they live right next to the lake and they live really close to a popular place that maybe is close to um, let's say an attraction park or like a really good school. So what I'm doing is I'm thinking about all the good things that these people have, but I'm not looking at maybe the negative things that they have to complain about, which maybe I agreed that I would help them achieve. So maybe part of the agreement was if there are any problems, um, you know, I can help you with helping solve them. But halfway through, I decide, no, I don't really want to, and I can't, and I'm not really being the committed person that I said I would be at the very beginning. So how do you understand what pride is in this scenario, and how do you understand what desire is? Well, if you think about the person who's a superintendent who owns this building, he feels proud that he built something really good. And his desire is that because I've worked so hard, I don't have to worry about doing any extra work. I could just almost retire. My kind of answer would be, well, then just retire. Like, give the job to somebody else. You'll still get paid because it's your building. And if you sell it, you get all that money and you get to retire and you can do whatever you want. Or you can hire somebody else to do the job and like find some way to solve the problems for you. So in this way, it's almost like sometimes you don't know why the universe almost creates a really, really easy answer, but doesn't give it to a person to be inspired by it. So it's just really confusing, and you kind of wonder. You're like, well, I mean, what do you like? Make some good choices, but you can't do that because you almost have to wait, and let people understand like on their own sometimes. And sometimes you're like, well, can I give you a suggestion? Like, so it's really hard to say. Now, from the other perspective, you can think, well, how did that happen with the jinn, for example, who didn't want to listen to God? And this is why we're thinking that desire and pride are like something that's very dangerous to kind of try to wear in your life almost. So the reason pride is tricky to find is that it usually means that a person thinks that for some reason they're better than somebody else. So think about somebody who has a lot of good things that they're doing in their life. Sometimes they won't want to think about the things that they have to work on. They can just think, I've done enough. Like, I don't need to worry about ways of improving or finding challenges that are in my life that I can try to kind of create goals around. So in that way, their desire is actually a negative one. It's a desire that makes them lazy instead of helping them grow. So desire, what that means is it's usually something that your heart wants, but your mind wants even more because the mind is sometimes very hard to wake up. If the mind's really tired, because thinking is a really big job, so is problem solving. And then after you get to problem solving, you have to think about critical thinking. Critical thinking is something that is usually if you read something or you're comparing something and you have to kind of decide how to compare and contrast the good, the bad, and then try to solve like, okay, well, what can I conclude about this? And then do that with the other thing. And then try to integrate the two of them and then wonder about how to create something brand new. So it's a very big job, and sometimes the brain is really tired and it doesn't have any ideas, and then you have to go back and research new things. Some people love this, and some people they don't like it because to get to that point, you already have to have read a lot and researched a lot. So sometimes it's usually later in life that people learn how to build this skill. People who don't necessarily have a job that requires that they learn how to do this, if they get to that point in their life and they're already kind of like, I'm almost ready to retire, they almost don't really want to build that skill. They're just like, ah, no, it's going to be, I have to start all over. No, I don't want to. So this desire is what some people call almost like a laziness or complacency, which means you're not really trying to help yourself align with the universe in a healthy way so that you can come back in the next life if you die, and then, which you eventually will, but you don't want to lose all that hard work. Like if you're in a position in life where you have money and you have a little bit of influence, you want that to maintain. So you want to build that into the next life that you have so that you continue to kind of not come back and have to almost start all over, right? So it's hard to say for any one person in any particular age what good desire is and what maybe you should be careful around. So I'm going to start with crushes because when we're young, we almost that's the first thing that we almost want to kind of understand, and sometimes our parents will agree, sometimes they won't. So it's almost like one of the very first places that we have to negotiate. After that, it's usually toys and like things that we like to buy. And it's not to say one's first and one's second. It's just that it usually tends to be things that we like to have to play with, and then people that we like to enjoy and have company with. And then after that, it's things that we can do together. So think about that. I remember the first time I started to feel like I had a crush. I think I was in grade 3. So I might have been I'm sorry, I might have been 8 or 9 years old. So that's still pretty young. Like for parents, if you tell them that right now, they might think it's kind of cute. They might think like, oh, that's cool. You can have your friends over. It might actually be younger than that, like in kindergarten or grade 1. But it's hard to know why children that young are almost already thinking that way. Because if you think about it from an adult's perspective, you might be like, they probably don't really understand what it means. But it's interesting that we think that because children learn by seeing what happens around them and what they watch on television or in movies. And they love feelings of love, right? And we love feelings of love. So why wouldn't that be something they want to explore and be curious about? So if you're trying to learn about it from a young age and to try to do it safely, then why not try to encourage it and just be careful around, like, I have to be careful about my own emotions and other people's emotions. And then we have to almost share ideas and decide how we're going to work through some of the things we want to do together. And it becomes almost like a friendship, and you're just trying to understand, like, how do boys think, how do girls think, how do two girls think, how do two boys think. And from there you can start to involve adults maybe and say, you know what, we did this today, what do you think? And that way it's almost building a safe environment where people won't feel judged right away. Like something becomes like immediately, no, 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 you're not allowed. Or so, because that reaction tends to scare people. And then they don't really know, like, why did you have that reaction? Like, what's wrong? And then they start thinking there's something wrong with boys or there's something wrong with girls. And they can't figure it out. And then that grows up with them into their adult life. And then it becomes a difficult way of actually building a healthy relationship. So if we think about of religion, usually religion talks about, like, way back 1400 years ago, it used to say, to men and women, it used to say, if you believe in that cause, which is to follow your heart, if you're attracted to somebody because maybe there's something about their personality that you like, it says that's fine, but make sure that you plan to almost not disrespect them in a way. So don't tell them that, you know what, I want to spend time with you, but then trick them in some way. Because some people, they want to learn how to love, but they don't know how. And so they're trying to experiment with you and you're trying to experiment with them. But if you want to just hang out for a little bit and just be friends, but they want something that's like, but I want you to stay with friends with me for a very long time. How are you each supposed to know that? You really can't. You just have to kind of talk about it and learn about it. And that's the only way to do it, is when you're young. Because when you're young, you're much more resilient with your emotions and understanding, um, like, why do I feel grumpy when somebody doesn't like me back? And then, oh, it's because I really like them and I want them to really like me. And I have to understand why that makes me grumpy. Like, and that's what love is. It's a very, very heavy emotion to kind of deal with when you don't feel like you're loved back the way you love somebody. So the again, I go back to young Sheldon because his sister kind of goes through that, and it's really neat the way her father almost kind of responds to it. Like, he doesn't try to necessarily tell her what to do. I don't think. I think he's almost just there to kind of listen and just be like, yeah, it's very difficult, and maybe that's what the kids need these days. It's just somebody to kind of listen to them vent and talk about why they're feeling sad because somebody doesn't like them the way they would like them to like them. And we can't force emotion. Like, if somebody's not going to like you the way you want them to, then why almost force it? It's better to find somebody who's going to like you for who you are rather than try to pretend to be somebody that they're going to like, and then you end up having a relationship and then it doesn't really work out very well. So I don't know. I think it's a trial and error thing with desire, and especially with the relationships. Other forms of desire as you get older become um, kind of difficult to kind of discuss because I don't really know how to give that to an age. So I'm going to focus right now just on relationships and how to build um, healthy ways of communicating emotion so that people can understand maybe how to build common goals together. And then from there, I guess we'll see how things unfold.